All right, I think we're near enough to the hour that I'll just get started here. Looks like captions are going. It looks like everybody can see me. Okay, I think we're cooking with gas. Hello and welcome back, everyone. It is I, Vexing Cat. Welcome to my library. Oh, last Wednesday, we finished up Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book, and today we will be reading the Paul Creswick version of Robin Hood. Awesome. That's good to hear. Let's see. So, very little is actually known about Paul Creswick, and it was incredibly difficult to track down any information at all about him. I know he was born in 1866, but I wasn't able to confirm any date of what that his actual birthday was. I do know that he died in April of 1947. I don't know if he married. I don't know if he had children. I do know that he was a commandant in the British Army during World War One, but I can't find any records of like that post. He was, let's see, grab that information here. It's pretty bizarre for me. I normally am able to find a lot more information about an author. This version of Robin Hood is the 1917 version that is illustrated by Wythe, N.C. Wythe. So, backstory: N.C. Wythe was the student of the previous author, which was Howard Pyle. Now, Howard Pyle wrote his version of Robin Hood in 1883, and he did all of the illustration for his version. Really amazing illustrations. Let me grab some of those. Um, Where is the Howard Pyle? So here, this is open image. There we go. So this is an example of kind of crude here with the um, open image. Maybe this one will be better. So here's a better image, much better. Delete that one. So this is a picture from Howard Pyle's illustrated version of Robin Hood and his misadventures and his adventures. So here he is, of course, encountering John Little right there on the log bridge to cross the river there. And they're having a pole arm fight. So this is kind of fascinating because I think that Howard Pyle's version is something I'll have to cover in a future date. I don't want to cover them too close together because it'd be kind of silly for people to hear the same story twice. But they are different stories written by different authors at different points in history. So there's going to be some variances between the two. Yeah, that is a very small version of that picture. So I'm trying to get some more out of more pictures from his, but I think I'd actually have to open the novel and pull it up that way to do that. So I will save that for when I'm actually covering Howard Pyle's work. So back to Paul Creswick. So Paul Creswick, sometimes mentioned James Paul Creswick, was born in Kingston on Thames and Buckinghamshire. I am sure I butchered the heck out of that. And during his time as an author, he wrote 37 different novels. A number of them he wrote pre World War One, and then he took a hiatus after the war, probably to recover. And then he began writing again in 1910, I believe. grab that list of books of his. So he wrote A Miracle Comedy of Sentiments in 1895. He would have been about 30 at that time, 29, I believe, 26, 20. Yeah, it would have been about 29. At the Sign of the Cross Key, 1896. The Temple of Folly, chapters from the Book of Mr. Fairfax in 1897. The Smugglers of Barnard's Head in 1899. In Alfred's Days, a story of Saga the Dane in 1900. So these are all within a few years of each other. Then Robin Hood and His Adventures, which was 1902. Then that was released, their versions of that was released from 1902, 1910, and 1917, the finalized version, which is what we'll be reading from today. Close that. Then he did Hasting the Pirate in 1902, Richard the Fearless, A Tale of the Red Crusade in 1904, Idols of Flesh 1909, Honesty's Garden in 1910, The Kitty Confidences in 1911, The Ring of Pleasure in 1911, Our Little Kingdom, A History 1917, The Beaten Path, A Fantasy The Beaten Path of Fantasy at 1924, King Arthur, The Story of the Round Table in 1925, and The Turning Wheel in 1928. I find it remarkable that there's so little information about this specific author. Someone who obviously was well written and prolific should have a more of a note in history. And even finding as little information as I did, it just seems so strange. There are no pictures of him that I could find anywhere. Through multiple searches, through multiple websites, was unable to ascertain anything on him. There's no photos in any of his books. It's very odd. Meanwhile, on the other side of it, so N.C. Wythe, hey, let me grab his stuff. He was much easier to track down and find information about him. Let me grab a picture. So this is a picture of N.C. Wythe, the illustrator from the version of the book that we will be reading today, the 1917 version. So like he was a real person. Not that Paul Creswick wasn't, but it's just so odd that there are no black and white photographs that survive to this day. Ah, thank you. You and I appreciate that. What would I call you now? Wandai? Maybe? Wanday? Ah, you two are so cute. Let's see. So N.C. Wythe here, born in 1882, died in October of 1945. Let's see here, his full information. So Newell Converse Wythe. Newell Converse. That's a heck of a name. So he was actually a student of, like I said, Howard Pyle, the previous author of the 1883 version of lost my train of thought, of Robin Hood. Wythe is known for a number of illustrations. He was more of a realist style painter. He used cameras and photography to capture the images that he would go and recreate. He has his family was originally from Switzerland. He actually, his family, he grew up, his mother was acquainted with Henry David Thoreau and Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. He was always a great appreciator of literature and artistic talents. He was the oldest of 4 children. He spent a lot of time in nature, hunting, fishing, enjoying other outdoor pursuits. There's a lot of information about NC. So he was most notably known for his artwork in Robinson Crusoe, Treasure Island. He's been, like, he did the information about the boys King Arthur, images. Let's see. Open a new image here. This is a self-portrait he did of himself. I thought was quite cute. Like him just out in nature, with his cute little glasses and his pipe there. Let's see here. Grab that. Here are some of his paintings. He has a very distinctive art style. Here's one here, like getting ready to fight an anaconda. And then again, natural shot, a man about to fight a bear. Then we have a hunter trapper getting out of a canoe. And many more of its ilk. He loved natural art. He's done. There was another really cool painting. I was trying to find a really big picture of it, and it was actually of a giant walking through the ocean with children sitting on the beach. Wow, you guys, you're just having a good time over there. Okay, so which one was this? Here's another picture from the plains here. This one was this was from the Museum of Art in this Brigham, I guess. Just interesting use of texture. If I didn't know this was a painting, I would have sworn this was pastel with the way the texture is. Might be. Very, very interesting use of texture throughout all of his paintings. Again, just swaths with the palette knife, big, quick strokes. Up here in this upper left-hand corner, he would have used some paint thinner to wash it out, to kind of fade it. And the whole thing just has a very soft green hue, except for these, like, highlighted light areas. So he probably washed the whole thing with a really thinned out green or yellow to kind of make everything harmonize. Anyway, so N.C. Wythe, Paul Creswick, what little there is on him. I'll talk more about Howard Pyle the next time I read Robin Hood with his version. Am I missing anything? Boop, 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 boop. Self-portrait. Yes, I did want to cover this briefly. So this is let me zoom in a little bit. So this is a piece of Latin manuscript, which was called Piers the Plowman, which was the earliest reference of Robert of Locksley or Robin Hood. So this particular manuscript was written or designed in 1325. So this is by far the oldest idea of Robin of Locksley. It's one of the few illustrations that survived the Middle Ages. They don't know who the artist was. It just produced, there's a variety of pictures. None of them are cohesive. That can just give people insight about the 14th century. I mean, there's like, what is this weird creature wearing a hat up in the top right corner? We have, a plowman, Piers the plowman with four oxen pulling the plow there. So, welcome in, cooks. Let's see. So, because these books were so rare and difficult to produce before the printing press, everything here you see, every letter, every artistic stroke, everything here was done by hand. And it's why a lot of these books didn't really survive, except for the ones that were tucked away in various abbeys and private collections. But let's see here. Grab that. There was a translation of this book, but I'm just gonna show you guys what that looked like, of what the poem. I can't read this. It's been translated from Latin into Old English, and It is very crudely written, perhaps by some, I'm gonna assume a layman, somebody who, worked really hard, um, because there's just so many like misspellings and grammatical errors. But it's an old English, so it might not have been, but modern English is just very hard to read. Um, and gone to greed Grimlich and grit duel to make for his wicked life that he elude heed. Like I can't. And I can't even say it in proper English. For hunger for other for first, it just doesn't even feel right unless you throw some accent on it. Um, and riseth, I'm gonna say up. The V here as a substitute for the U. They didn't use a U. Uh, with ribald, ribald. Yeah. As you can see, there are three parts in this passus. Passus one. So we have. So the first text is from 1362, and that's off of this. This is translation from 1362, from that original manuscript in 1325. Um, and then we've got the different verses here, the prologue, um, then continuance, and then the final. Well, I can't even begin to read this. I'll have to speak to somebody who knows more than I on this subject. Um, Maybe Cleoide would have some insider information about this, but it'd be fantastic to pick her brain over it. So I'll just save that for later. Done. Okay, so manuscript, talked about that. Um, Here's the cover of the 1917 version that we will be reading. This I thought was kind of interesting. The inside cover, the first page, is this beautiful illustration that unfortunately isn't lined up terribly well, of these forestry men, the merry men, going back into the forest. And then we see the town in the background there, and then the references to Nottingham on the left. Yes, very interesting. Also, there was this really cool picture. This is one of those N.C. Wythe pictures. So you can see so much detail in the hair, the folds of the fabric, the folds of the leather, the details in the leather of the shoe. Um, this would have probably been more vivid when it was originally printed, but certain colors, namely yellow, fade horribly over time, especially if the paper was acidic at all. So this could have been a very intense blue, red and yellow, blue pattern, and then I think his tights might have been red. That could have been an oxblood red or a brighter red. It's hard to say. Cleo is a drongo? What's a... I don't know what that means. But yes, so here is the information about the illustration. David McRae was the publisher from Philadelphia. This was, like I said, in 1917. All right. I think that does that. There were a number of illustrations in this book from N.C. Wythe, and as we get to them, I'll blow them up and put them and pull them up for us to read. So, I have hopefully covered enough information. I was trying to run through it a little bit faster today, mostly because I'm annoyed that I don't have more records of Paul Creswick. I have tons of information about Howard Pyle, but I can't find hardly anything other than a few references to him being a writer in the military and a commandant, and then a one brief reference of like him being like a store clerk or something, and then nothing. There are no photos, no family trees, no references of him anywhere other than being an author of 37 books, most of which I had never heard of, and that he was born on this day and died on this day, and I believe he died in Sussex. So, casual 37 novels, yeah. Um, he was kind of fascinating. Most of the books that he wrote, like his adult books geared towards adult readers, are filled with like scandal and tragedy. And then all of his books that he wrote towards children audiences are filled with like the most romantic fascination with English history. So like he took the rosiest shaded glasses versions of English history and turned that into stories. Robin Hood and his adventures, and Alfred Day's Under the Black Raven, Hasting the Pirate, The Smugglers of Baynard's Head, um, and he just romanticized and glorified England's past and made like male centric adventure stories. So I have rambled enough, I think, for now. And let's go ahead and get started on the book. There are actual chapters, so it'll be much easier for me to keep track of where I am in the novel, unlike in The Jungle Book, which had just sections and poems in between each section with no chapters or numbers. Okay. Um, oh, and for you new people here, this is probably not going to make much sense to all of you, but I did get a couple of new PNGs because for future streams, I am going to be doing a little more variety. I want to move starting next week to a Monday, Wednesday, Friday format of consistent like streaming on those days, alternating Sundays. And then the Mondays and Wednesdays will be exclusively for reading. Oh, Meredith Enjoyer, thank you.
Meredith_Enjoyer just
And then Fridays,
subscribed.
I'm gonna have kind of flexible for doing collabs, doing like gaming streams, art streams, etc., etc. Enjoy your emotes; those are so fun. Um, but here are some of those new PNGs, so it'll make it a little bit easier for streaming, because I always felt odd about doing a gaming stream using this PNG. I thought it would be kind of a bit odd. So this will be kind of my next phase. This is my just talking, sitting here having a conversation with you all. Um, Obviously without the book title. So this one will be, yeah, this was done by Pandamatsu. They're an incredible artist. Let me shout them out here. Shout. S-O. And Pandamatsu, I believe. Am I spelling that correctly? I'm so bad with names sometimes. Yeah, Pandamatsu. Okay. That should do it. If I didn't break it, maybe they don't have any clips? It's possible. Yeah, I definitely have sound. It is a cute look. I really like it. But yeah, so I got a couple of different versions of this model. So here is the general just chatting. Then I've got the pirate version. Eh, eh, eh. This is for those Sea of Thieves streams. Also, welcome in, Darth. Haven't seen you in a minute. It does bring a bit of a hag aura. Thank you. So I've got the pirate for my D&D campaigns on the weekends, and for anytime I'm going to do some pirate related, Sea of Thieves or some of the other pirate games. I like them. They're fun. I will be doing some art streams in the near future, so I can do. I have my little tablet and I can talk to you guys. I need to do a couple of rearrangements so that way I can look up when I'm talking and then looking down when I'm doing doodling. And then I have this little game controller, so if we're playing Helldivers or Minecraft or Valheim or oh no, Meredith, I did not. It was definitely Pandamatsu, who is incredible artist. I will not take credit where credit is due. Um, I just have excellent taste in artists. And do I have one more? I might have one more. Oh, nope, that's my old one. So it's just those four. So this one, this one, this one, and this one. Yep. Pandamatsu. I thought it's so weird to me that it didn't actually do the little blurb with the shout out. I don't know why it didn't do that correctly. Because normally if there's a clip from an artist, you can actually see the video for it. So I just think it's very odd. Ba, 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 ba. Um, all right, I'll switch over to this one since I'm sitting here mucking around while I look for stuff. Where did I put that? Da, 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 da. I get lost in what I'm doing. Nope, 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 nope. That's not that one. I have too many. I need to organize my folders again. Oh, that kills me. I will. I'll have to figure that out later. It seems like every stream there's something that breaks inevitably. I blame OBS, I blame Stream Deck, I blame me not checking every little thing in every stream before I go live. Okay. Check. So, check. Shout out. Figure out what's wrong with it. I know what's wrong with it. Ain't got no gas in it. Okay. Alright, so let's turn that back on. Blame the gremlins. I like that idea. That seems smart. Okay. So we've got our book title. We have our book. We have everything kind of dialed in. Yes, I think we're good. It's done broke. Yes, you're not wrong. I do need to figure out eventually what the heck happened to the shoutouts, but I will have to do that after stream. But if you're not already following Pandamatsu, I highly recommend that you do. Super great, amazing artist. They have a more realistic style. They do anthro art. They do like the chibi stuff like that I got. I think their rates are really reasonable for the how much talent they have. I think that they're producing really beautiful content. I loved watching them work on these, work on my PNGs, and then other people's artwork is so good. They're so good. Pandamatsu, there you are. I'll throw a link down here in the bottom. Because I don't think it's shouted out correctly, which is odd to me. Maybe it'll work now. Probably not. Anyway, this is a normal... Maybe it's because... Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. Haha, I am the smirt. That's because I had that @ symbol at the beginning. I think that's what broke it. Oh, yeah, that's their old model.
Y este es como que para darle
And that's a
volumen a la piel,
chest.
más que nada. Si tú ya quieres darle
Oh
como que
my goodness.
un
But they are
shading
bilingual. They speak
más
both
fuerte,
Spanish
simplemente
and
pues
English.
haces
I
una...
don't
Yo
know if
hago
they
siempre una
do
capa de multiply.
Portuguese as well.
Le agarras.
But awesome art. Really awesome detail. Yeah, moobs jump scare. I never know what I'm going to find when we do the clips, so it's just kind of a. I'm not even sure where it sources some of these clips from because there must be some really old arcade that it's pulling this information from. Because another streamer, Red Lethal Panda, it pulled a clip, like a face cam clip from like years ago, and he's like, "Where did it get that? I haven't seen that clip in so long. I don't even know." But yeah. Anyway, I digress. I have rambled and meandered my way, and I am back to the book. Let's lock in. So today we will be reading Robin Hood and His Adventures. I liked this version of the of the book because we're actually covering some additional tales than that some of us may have ever been exposed to in like I had never read this book prior to reading it now with you all. My experience with Robin Hood was the 1973 Disney version of Robin Hood, and then like subsequent, um, other, Men in Tights and other silly stories of Robin of Locksley. Um, but this one has some of his adventures of when he was a young child before he ever became the hero, the liberator of the poor and the downtrodden. Yeah, Men in Tights is definitely very, very memorable for sure. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes of the book and welcome in all of you wonderful new library goers. And I appreciate you guys checking me out. Okay, let's see. Well, let's see. Robin Hood and His Adventures, Chapter 1. Well, Robin, on what folly do you employ yourself? Do you cut sticks for our fire, O mornings? Thus spoke Master Hugh Fitzooth, King's Ranger of the forest at Locksley, as he entered his house. Robin flushed a little. These are arrows, sir, he announced, holding one up for inspection. Dame Fitzooth. Dame Fitzooth smiled upon the boy as she rose to meet her lord. What fortune do you bring us today, father? Asked she, cheerily. Fitzooth's face was a mask of discontent. I bring myself, dame, answered he, neither more nor less. Surely that is enough for Robin and me, laughed his wife. Come, cast off your shoes and give me give me your bow and quiver. I have news for you, Hugh, even if you have none for us. George of Gamewell has sent his messenger today, and bids me bring Robin to him for the fair. She hesitated to give the whole truth. That cannot be, began the ranger hastily, then checked himself. What wind is it that blows our squire's friendship toward me, I wonder, he went on. Do we owe him toll? You were not fair to George Montfichet. Fichet, I'm guessing. George Montfichet. Hugh, he is an open, honest man, and he is my brother. The dame spoke with spirit, being vexed that her husband should thus slight her item of news. That Montfichet is of Norman blood is sufficient to turn your thoughts of him as sour as old milk. Hey, Norman, he is French. Okay. I'm as good as all the Montfichets and De Veres hereabout, dame, for all I am but plain Saxon, returned Fitzooth, crossly, and the day may come when they shall know it. Athelstane the Saxon Athelstane the Saxon might make full as good a king when Henry dies as Richard of Aquitaine, as Richard of Aquitaine, with his harebrained notions and runagate religion. There would be bobbing of heads and curtsying to us then, if you like. Squire George of Gamewell would be sending messengers for me to cap in hand. Doubt it not. For that matter, there is ready welcome for you now at my brother's house, said Mistress Fitzooth. repenting of her sharpness at once. Montfichet bade us all to Gamewell, but here is his scroll, and you may read it for yourself. She took a scroll from her bosom as she spoke, and offered it to her husband. He returned to the open door that he might read it. His brow puckered itself as he strove to decipher the flourished Norman writing. I have no leisure now for this screed, mother. Read it to me later as you will. His tone was kinder again, for he saw how Robin had been busying himself in these last few moments. Let us sup, mother. I dare swear we all are hungry after the heat of the day. I have made and tipped a full score of arrows, sir. Will you see them? Asked Robin. That will I, so soon as I have found the bottom of this pasty. Sit yourselves, mother and Robin, and we'll chatter afterwards. Robin helped his mother to kindle the flax, whereby the dim and flickering tapers might be lighted. His fingers were more deft at this business, it would seem, than in the making of arrows. Fitzooth, in the intervals of his eating, took up Robin's arrows one by one, and had some shrewd jibe ready for most of them. Of the score, only 5 were allowed to pass. The rest were tossed contemptuously into the black hearth, on to the little heap of smoldering fire. 5's not bad, If you're just learning to carve arrows, 5's not bad. By my heart, Robin, but I shall never make a proper bowman of you, were ever such shafts fashioned to fit across cord and yew. The arrows are pretty enough, Hugh, interposed the dame. There 'tis, cried Fitzooth triumphantly. The true bowman's hand showeth not in the prettiness of an arrow, mother, but in the straightness and hardness of the wand. Our Robin can fly a shaft right well, I grant you, and I have no question for his skill, but he cannot yet make me an arrow such as I love. Already, this is far more backstory than I had ever heard of Robin of Locksley. I didn't know his father had been a ranger, or that, he learned, you know, bowcraft and arrows at such a young age. It's fascinating. Well, I do think them right handsomely done, said Mistress Fitzooth, unconvinced. It is not given to every one to make such arrows as you can, husband, but my Robin has other accomplishments. He can play upon the harp sweetly and sing you a good song. Fitzooth must still grumble, however. I would rather your fingers should bend the bow than pluck at harp strings. Remarkably, very similar. Robin, growled he, still there is time for all things. Read me now our brother's message. Robin, eager to atone for the faults of his arrows, stretched out the paper upon the table, and read aloud the following. From George A. Court Montfichet, of the Hall at Gamewell, near Nottingham, Squire of the Hundreds of Sandwell and Sherwood, giving greetings and praying God's blessing on his sister Eleanor and on her husband, Master Hugh Fitzooth, Ranger of the King's Forest at Locksley. Happiness be with you all. I do make you this screed in the desire that you will both of you ride to me at Gamewell in the light of tomorrow, the 5th day of June, bringing with you our young kinsman, Robin. There is a fair north at Nottingham for 3 days of this week, and we are to expect great and astonishing marvels to be performed at it. Wherefore, seeing that it will doubtless give him satisfaction and some knowledge, for who can witness wonders without being the wiser for them, fail not to present yourselves as I honestly wish. I also ask that Robin shall stay with me for the space of 1 year at least, having no son now, and being a lonely man. Him will I treat as my own child in all ways, and return him to you in the June of next year. This I send by the hand of Warrenton, my man-at-arms, who shall bear me your reply. Given under our hand at Gamewell the 4th day of June in the year of grace 1188. 1188. My goodness. Signed, Montfichet. Robin's clear voice ceased, and silence fell upon them all. I have a tickle in my throat. Give me a second. Gotta stay hydrated. Robin's voice Robin's clear voice ceased, and silence fell upon them all. Fitzooth guessed that both his son and wife waited anxiously for his decision. Yet he had so great a pride that he could not at once agree to the courteous invitation. For himself he had no doubt. Nothing would move Fitzooth to mix with the fine folk of Nottingham, whilst his claims to the acres of Broadweald in Lancashire went unrecognized. It was an old story, and although by virtue of his office as ranger at Locksley, Hugh Fitzooth might very properly claim an honourable position in the county, he swore not to avail himself of it unless he could have a better one. The bar sinister stayed him from Broadwold. So the judges had said, and haughty Fitzooth had perforce to bear with their finding. The king had been much interested in the suit, the estate being a large one, situated in the county Palatine of England, and the matter had caused some stir in the court. When Fitzooth had failed, Henry, anxious to find favour with his Saxon subjects, had bestowed on him the keeping of a part of the forest of Sherwood in Nottingham. So Fitzooth, plain master, now for good and aye, had come to Locksley, a little village at the further side of the forest, and had taken up the easy duties allotted to him. Here he had nursed his pride in loneliness for some years, then had met one day Eleanor Montfichet a-hunting in the woods. He had unbent to her, and she gave him her simple, true heart. Strange pair, thrown together by fate in sooth, yet no man could say that this was an unhappy union. Within a year came black-eyed Robin to them, and they worshipped their child. But as time passed, and Hugh's claims were again put aside, his nature began to go sour once more. Now they were lonely, unfriendly folk, with no society other than that of the worthy clerk of Copmanhurst, a hermit too. He had taught Robin his Latin grace, and had given him a fair knowledge of Norman, Saxon, and the Middle tongues. "Say that we all may go tomorrow, father," cried Robin, breaking the silence. "I have never seen Nottingham Fair, sir, and you have promised to take me often. I cannot leave this place, for there is my work, and robbers are to be found even here. I have to post my foresters each day in their tasks, and see that the deer be not killed and stolen." He paused, and then, noting the disappointment in his son's face, relented. "Yet, since there is the fair, and I have promised it, Robin, you shall go with your mother to Gamewell, if so be the friar of Copmanhurst can go also. So get ready your clothes, for I know that you would wish to be at your best in our brother's hall. I will speed you tomorrow so far as Copmanhurst, and will send 2 hinds to serve you to Nottingham gates." Warrenton, my brother's man, spoke grievously of the outlaw bands near Gamewell, and told how he had to journey warily. So spoke Mistress Fitzooth, trying yet to bring her husband to say that he too would go. "The sheriff administers his portion of the forest very abominably, then," returned Fitzooth. "We have no fears and whinings here, but I do not doubt that Warrenton chattered with a view to test our courage, or perchance to make more certain of my refusal. But we are to go, are we not, sir?" Robin was anxious again, for his father's tone had already changed. "I have said it, and there it ends," said Fitzooth shortly. "If the clerk will make the journey, you shall make it too. Further, and the squire will have you. You shall stay at Gamewell and learn the tricks and prettiness of court and town, but look to your bow for use in life, and to your own hands and eyes for help. Kiss me, Robin, and get to bed. Learn all you can, and if Warrenton can show you how to fashion arrows within the year, I'll ask no more of brother George of Gamewell. You shall be proud of me, sir, I swear it. But I will not stay longer than a month, for I am to watch over my mother's garden. Never will shafts such as yours find quarry, Robin. I think that they would sooner kill the archer than the birds. There, mind not my jesting. Men shall talk of you, and I may live to hear them. Be just always, and be honest. The day broke clear and sweet. From Locksley to the borders of Sherwood Forest was but a stone's cast. Robin, in high glee, had been awake long ere daylight. He had dressed himself in his best doublet, green trunk hose, and pointed shoes, and had strung and unstrung his bow full a score of times. A sumpter mule had been saddled to carry the baggage, for the dame had, at the last moment, discovered a wondrous assortment of fineries and fripperies that must perforce be translated to Gamewell. Robin was carolling like any bird. "Are you glad to be leaving Locksley, my son?" asked Hugh Fitzooth. "Ay, rarely. 'Tis a dull place, no doubt. And glad to be leaving home, too?" "No, sir, only happy at the thought of the fair. Doubt it not that I shall be returned to you long ere a month is gone." "A year, Robin, a year. 12 changing months ere you will see me again. I have given my word now. Keep me a place in your heart, Robin." "You have it all now, sir, be sure. And I am not really so glad within as I seem without." "Tut, I am not chiding you. Get you upon your jennet, dame, and Robin, do you show the way. Roderick and the other shall lead the baggage mule. Have you pikes with you, men and full sheaths?" "I have brought me a dagger, father," cried Robin joyfully. So bravely they set forth from their quiet house at Locksley, and came within the hour to Copmanhurst. Here only were the ruins of the chapel and the clerk's hermitage, a rude stone building of 2 small rooms.
Magnetically Motivated just followed.
Welcome in, Magnetically Motivated. Enclosed with high oaken stakes and well guarded by 2 gaunt hounds was the humble abode of the anchorite. The clerk came to the verge of his enclosure to greet them, and stood peering above the palisade. Give you good morning, morrow? Give you good morrow, father," cried Robin. "Get your seed and tie steed. Seed, get your seed. Get your steed and tie up the dogs. We go to Nottingham this day, and you are to come with us." The monk shook his head. "I may not leave this spot, child, for matters of vanity," he answered, in would-be solemn tones. "Will you not ride with the dame and my son, father?" asked Fitzooth. "George of Gamewell has sent in for Robin, and I wish that you should journey with him, giving him such sage counsel as may fit him for a year's service in the great and worshipful company that he now may meet." "Come with us today, father," urged Mistress Fitzooth also. "I have brought a veal pasty and some bread so that we may not be hungry on the road. Also, there is a flask of wine." "Nay, daughter, I have no thought for the carnal things of life. I will go with you since the Ranger of Locksley orders it. It is my place to obey him when the king has put in charge. It is my place to obey him whom the king has put in charge of our green wood. Bide here whilst I make brief preparation." His eyes had twinkled, though, when the dame had spoken, and one could see that 'twas not on roots and fresh water alone that the clerk had thrived. Full and round were the lines of him under the monkly gown, and his face was red as any harvest moon. Hugh bade farewell briefly to them, while the clerk was tying up his hounds and chattering with them. When the clerk was ready, Fitzooth kissed his dame and bade her be firm with their son. Then, embracing Robin, ordered him to protect his mother from all mischance. Also, he was to bear himself honorably and quietly, and whilst being courteous to all folk, he was not to give way unduly to anyone who should attempt to browbeat or to cozen him. Remember always that your father is a proud man, and see, take these arrows of my own making, and learn from them how to trim the hazel. You have a steady hand and bold eye. Be a craftsman when you return to Locksley, and I will give you control of some part of the forest under me. Now, farewell. Take my greetings to our brother at Gamewell. Then the king's forester turned on his heel and strode back towards Locksley. Once he paused and faced about to wave his cap to them, then his figure vanished into the green of the trees. A sadness fell upon Robin, unaccountable and perplexing. But the hermit soberly journeyed toward Nottingham, the 2 men-at-arms with the sumpter mule riding in front. The road wound in and about the forest, and at noon they came to a part where the trees nigh shut out the sky. Robin spied out a fine old stag, and his fingers itched to fit one of his new arrows to his bow. "These be all of them king's deer, father?" he asked the friar, thoughtfully. "Every beast within Sherwood, royal or means, belongs to our king, child." "Do they not say that Henry is always in a foreign land, father?" "Ay, but he will return. His deer are not yet to be slain by your arrow, child. When you are ranger at Locksley in your father's stead, who shall then say you nay?" "My father does not shoot the king's deer except those past their time," answered Robin quickly. "He tends them and slays them instead of any robbers who would maltreat or kill the does. Do you think I could hit yon beast, father? He makes a pretty mark, and my arrow would but prick him." The clerk glanced towards Mistress Fitzooth. "Dame," said he gravely, "do you not think that here in this cool shadow we might well stay our traveling? Surely it is near the hour of noon, and," here he sank his voice to a sly whisper, "it would be well perhaps to let this temptation pass away from before our Robin. Else I doubt not the king will be one stag the less in Sherwood." Grab that picture real quick. So I blew it up a little bit so it'd be easier to see. So you get to see Wythe's detail really well exhibited here. The texture around the water as it's rippling, the texture of the grass, the various stones and cobbles in the road, the muscles in the shape of the horse's like shoulders there, the mule that she's riding, Dame Fitzooth. Can't actually see, I guess the little green cap feather is the young Robin, and then we have the clerk right there, the friar right there. Then we have all this beautiful texture of the wood bark, which, given the texture and where it is, that might be oak, I think, if I was to hazard a guess. A lot of deadfall leaves, beautiful rock textures, and we have the other mule carrying goods into town, and then the escort. Robin and his mother go to Nottingham Fair. The road wound in and about the forest, and at noon they came to a part where the trees nigh shut out the sky. Obviously, we haven't gotten to that part of the story just yet, but it looks pretty cool. In the meantime, okay. Let's see. Did I miss anything? I don't know. They haven't actually said Meredith. I don't know how old he is. If I was to conjure a guess, I would say, given this time period, Cleoide would probably know more accurately, but given this time period, apprenticeship into other houses and cross fostering would have happened, like, I would say between 8 and 10 is no, no, definitely not a teenager. Very young. Like young by our standards, but like by theirs, he would have been old enough to take up, a job by the time he was 11 or 12. Yeah, by 11 or 12, he would have been working. Um, so I think he's probably around 9 or 10, is my guess. Yeah, Squires are around, I think Squires are around 13 to 14. Well, there you go. Um, he isn't even a squire. I don't even think he's going to go, um, he's not even going to go squire at his uncle's house. He's going to just be at his court and um, learn their courtly ways for a year. So he could be as old as like 12 maybe. And maybe at the end of that year that he's spending with his uncle, maybe he would be old enough to squire at that time. Um, let's see. I like not this dark road, father, began the dame. We shall surely come to a brighter place. Robin, do you ride near to me and let your bow be at rest. Warrenton, your uncle's man, told me but yesterday. Her voice was suddenly drowned in the noise of a horn, wound so shrilly, wound so shrilly and distantly as to cause them all to start. Then, in a moment, half a score of lusty rascals appeared, springing out of the earth almost. The men-at-arms were seized, and the little cavalcade brought to a rude halt. Toll, toll, called out the leader. Toll must you pay, everyone, ere your journey be continued. Forbear, cried Robin, waving his dagger so soon as the man made attempt to take his mother's jennet by the bridle. Tell me the toll and the reason for it, and be more mannerly. The man just then spied that great stag which Robin had longed to shoot, bounding away to the left of them. Swiftly he slipped an arrow across his longbow and winged it after the flying beast. A miss, an easy miss, called Robin impatiently. Dropping his dagger, he snatched an arrow from his quiver, fitted it to his bow, and sent it speeding toward the stag. Had I but aimed sooner, murmured Robin regretfully, when his arrow failed by a yard to reach its quarry, and the clerk held up his hands in pious horror of his words. The shot was a long one, young master, spoke the robber, and he stooped to pick up Robin's little weapon. Here is your bodkin. Bodkin? Here is your bodkin. 'Tis no fault of yours that the arrow was not true. They all laughed right merrily, but Robin was vexed. Stand away, fellows, said he, and let us pass. Else shall you all be whipped. Again the leader of the band spoke. Toll first, lordling. Lording, tender it prettily to us, and you shall only tender it once. I'll tender it not at all, retorted young Fitzooth. Fie upon you for staying a woman upon the king's high road. Pretty men, forsooth, to attack in so cowardly a fashion. All must buy freedom of the greenwood, master, answered the men, quite civilly. We who exact the toll take no heed of sex. Pay us now, and when you return there shall be no questioning. A woman should be a safe convoy and free from all toll, argued Robin. Now here are my 2 men. Slaves, master, and they have only your mule and the 2 pikes. It is not enough. You will leave us nothing then, it seems, said Dame Fitzooth in trembling but brave voice. There is one thing that we all do value, mistress, and I propose sparing you that. Oof. We will do no one do no one of you any bodily harm. Take my purse, then, sighed Mistress Fitzooth. There is little enough in it, for we are poor folk. Ask toll of the church, cried Robin, staying his mother. The church is rich and has to spare, and afterwards she can grant absolution to you all. Again the robbers laughed, as the clerk began explaining very volubly to them that they were welcome to all the Mother Church could on this occasion offer. We know better than to stay a monk for toll, said the robber. Beside, would your excellence have us commit sacrilege? I would have you leave hold of my bridle, answered Robin very wrathfully. Pay the toll cheerfully, youngling, cried one of the others, and be not so wordy in the business. We have other folk to visit. The day is already half gone from Sherwood. I will shoot with you for the freedom of the forest, said Robin desperately. And I lose, then shall you take all but my mother's jennet. She shall be allowed to carry my mother into Gamewell, whilst I remain here as hostage for her return. Is a jennet a lady mule? Is that what I'm imagining it is? It's this, right? That's the jennet. Oh my goodness, Flara! Welcome
Flare
in!
Boots just followed.
Thanks for the follow. I need to know. What is a jennet? A female donkey. Oh. Also called a Spanish jennet, a small Spanish horse of the Middle Ages, prized as an ideal riding horse for nobility and light cavalry, now considered an extinct type. It was the progenitor of various modern breeds, most notably the Spanish jennet horse. Interesting. Huh.
Hi Gara
If this
13
is one of the
gifted 2
paintings,
subscriptions to the
a medieval
community.
jennet. Oh, Higara, thank you for the gifted subs. That's so kind. I really appreciate it. You are propping up this entire stream. I don't doubt it for any seconds. Yep, ketchup ramen. That's a friend from Lunchbox and Barksy, from the Bone Collar community. Good people, good choices. Yeah. I wish there was more photos of what that might look like. A medieval jennet. So these are just regular donkeys. So like a jack donkey would be a male donkey, and then a jennet would be a lady donkey. Studding fee, oh my. Well, I ramble. Welcome to the wild world of Vexing Cat's brain. It would be a bit of a smaller, like in this picture even, it is definitely a few hands shorter than the horse in the foreground. And the horse that her son, Robin, is riding. Well, if you wouldn't take out so many books at a time, you wouldn't have to pay any late fees. Okay. Boop. Ah, here we go. And I lose, then shall you take all but my mother's jennet. She shall be allowed to carry my mother into Gamewell, whilst I remain here as hostage for her return. Let the dame bring back 100 crowns, and each for her hands then, replied the chief of the robbers. It is agreed, answered Robin, after one appealing glance towards the dame. Now help me down from my horse, and let the clerk see fair play. Set us a mark, good father, and pray heaven to speed my arrows cunningly. The clerk, who had kept himself much in the background, now spoke. This wager seems to savor of unholiness, friends. said he solemnly. Yet in that it is also smacks yet in that it also smacks of manliness. I will even consent to be judge. You, sir, since you are doubtless well acquainted with the part, can speak for distance. Now, I do appoint the trunk of yon birch tree as first mark in this business. Speed your arrow then, lording, laughed the robber. 'Tis but 40 ells away. I will follow you respectfully, never doubt it. Oh, before I forget, word command, so I'd had to look one up. I will follow you respectfully, never doubt it. Robin bent his bow and trained his eyes upon the birch, then suddenly came back upon him his father's words. Remember that I am a proud man, Robin. I will, muttered Robin, betwixt set teeth, and he aimed with all his heart and soul in it. There came the twang of the bowstring, and the next moment the goose shaft was flying towards its mark. A pretty shot, master, said the robber, glancing carelessly toward the arrow, quivering still in the trunk of the birch tree. But you have scarce taken the center of our mark. Let me see if I may not mend your aim. His arrow sang through the summer air and took root, fairly in the middle of the trunk, side by side with Robin's. You win first round, friend, said the clerk, with seeming reluctance. Now listen, both, whilst I make you a better test. He was about to continue when an interruption occurred, one that saved him necessity of further speech. Okay, we are between chapters, and it's been a minute since I've had this opportunity to say this. So, between chapters, typically, I like to kind of feel the room, see how everybody's doing, remind one and all to hydrate, caffeinate, grab a snack, grab a blanket if you need to relax, and I'm hopefully not, um, speaking on deaf ears, but, be sure to take care of yourselves.
Don't forget to stretch.
Yeah, stretch. Big stretch. My little stretchy guy. I love him. Hey, no bonks. No flare bonks. Not allowed. um, thanks for the bonk. Yes. We are between chapters. I can definitely read at least another whole chapter or two before we have to go on an ad break. I try to do, for those of you not in the know, I try to do all my ads before I start streaming at 6 p.m. EDT. I'll start my stream about, 15, 20 minutes early and get at least 2 rounds of ads out of the way to hopefully an empty audience. Aw, thank you for the pats. Jules helped me. They were kind enough to help me get that set up earlier today. So now it works! And Higara gets to use it, but Jules got to use it. It's super cheap and it lasts for a couple of seconds. I might dial in the cost of it a little bit more, because right now anybody that just follows would have unlimited head pats, but they're pretty tame, so you know. Okay, quick hydration, and then we'll get started on chapter 2. Mm-hmm. Yum, 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 yum. All the agua. All right, we are on to chapter 2. Suddenly, through the greenwood came full 80 of the king's foresters, running towards the robbers, ready to seize them. Tally-ho! That's a lot of head pats. But spend them as you will. Maybe I'll crank it up to 1,000. Ha ha! We'll get rid of all your points right away. These were the foresters of Nottingham. Roving far afield, the sheriff of Nottingham had become angered at the impudent robberies of late, and now all of his foresters had spread themselves about Sherwood in the hope of making such a capture of the outlaws as would please their master. and bring substantial reward to themselves. On the head of Will o' the Green. Huh. Will o' the Green, I think. Will of, that would be O-A-O-F. On the head of Will of the Green, the chief of the band, was set the price of 10 gold crowns. But alas, these crowns were still to seek, for Will o' the Green, at the first hint of the danger, had put his horns to his lips and given a long, low call upon it, and next instant not a robber was to be seen. Each man had dropped to his hands and knees as soon as he reached the bushes, and the foresters might beat and belabor Mother Sherwood in vain, for she would never betray her children. Fitzooth's, Fitzooth, Fitzooth's, Fitzooth's men at arms were glad to be released, and were eager now to give all information against their assailants. One of the fellows swore roundly that the learned clerk had given Will o' the Green a very plain hint. But this assertion was most properly put aside by all who heard it. Robin gave his story of the business, and then, having thanked the captain of the foresters, would have continued the journey. The clerk was no longer to be denied, however, from his food, and so it came about that presently the four of them were at a meal together under the trees, the captain of the foresters having agreed to join with Robin the hermit and Mistress Fitzooth in an attack upon the good wine and pasty which the latter had provided. Free meal. Let's see. Go ahead and grab that. Oh, I did miss a call. Mm, I might have to make a quick pause and give my mom a call back. See what's going on. Let's go ahead and finish this page and then I'll give her a jingle. Let's see. The foresters returned in twos and threes from their fruitless search, and stood about in little knots discussing the chase. All agreed that the outlaws had some stronghold underground, with many entrances and ways into it, easily to be found by those in the secret, but impossible of passage to persons in pursuit. "Do you go to Gamewell, friends?" asked the captain, after the meal had been finished. When he had been answered yes, he told Mistress Fitzooth that she might have an escort for the rest of the way, since he and his men must travel to Gamewell themselves, to report the encounter to Squire George of Gamewell. Gladly Mistress Fitzooth heard this, and very cheerfully they all started afresh upon the journey. Robin alone was sad. The fact that the robber chief's arrow had flown more near a woodman's mark than his own rankled within his breast. Ah, but a time would come when Master Will o' the Green should see better archery than he now dreamed of, and Robin should be the master who would teach the lesson. Building such daydreams, he cantered quietly enough beside his mother's jennet, whilst the clerk and the captain of the foresters chattered amiably together. The dame listened to their gossip and put in their own word and question. She had an easy mind now, and could give herself to talk of Prince John and his impudent rebellion. "So the barons would really make him king?" asked she, round-eyed. "King of all these lands and forests? Some of our barons have sworn so much," answered the forester lightly. "But men speak best with their swords, dame. Have you not heard of young Montfichet's doings? He has undone himself, indeed." I have already read past where I had originally intended, so I'm going to put a little sticky. Let's go ahead and make a little arrow. Boop. Okay. Gotta make a little itty bitty arrow. Doo doo doo. Okay, that'll work. All right, I will be right back. I just need to go give my mom a call back. Hopefully everything's okay. I am free from Rizian. I'm sorry. Rizian? I will, Meredith. Also, hi Mo! I haven't seen you in ages. I hope you're doing well. I will be right back, you guys. Hold the fort. I'll do an ad while I'm at it, so in case this takes longer than 3 minutes, at least that'll be out of the way. Yeah. Oh, my mom called. I'm sorry, Mo. Family comes first. I will be right back. I return. Do do do. We'll see how this goes. Let's see. Where's my little arrow at? There it is. Yay! Okay. I am so smart. Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me back, Meredith. Do you prefer Meredith or do you want to have a different nickname? Kuma. Okay. I can do that. That would make more sense. So let's... I will know that. You know, I feel like the old Twitch was easier to work. No, no. No, you're not being called out. I like if somebody has like the preferred nickname. You have good taste. Emperor's Armpits. I think you're from over there on. I think I've seen you on Almontis's stream and probably Ronin's, I think, which is probably where Kuma is also from. By the way, you do in fact have excellent taste because Manny and Ronin are both phenomenal. Let's see here. Back to life, back to reality. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Waldemar Fitzurths. Oh my god, these names. You guys, they're killing me here. Waldemar Fitzurse is behind it all, and young De Brocy, the clerk interrupted, loudly, giving him a warning glance. The friar pointed to Robin. "'Tis the lad's cousin, and he does not know of Godfrey Montfichet's outlawry." Outlawry? That's a word? It must have been, at some point in history. I mean, obviously, we can assume the same etymology. The act or process of outlawing, the state of being outlawed, disregard or defiance of the law. A man whose outlawry had made him a folk hero. Intriguing. So in this context, process of outlawing, I'm guessing, is contextually. He whispered. Some say that the king will establish an assize of arms on his return from France, whereby every knight, freeholder, and burgess must arm himself for England's defence, continued the clerk easily. 'Tis a pretty notion, and like our king. Unless they specifically just mean disobeying laws. It's possible. But Godfrey Montfichet is the lord of Nottingham. Like, that is his castle and his estate. And his sister Eleanor, which is Robin's mother, married into his dad Hugh's family. So I'm assuming that Godfrey Montfichet is, who is the lord of the country, is the one who's outlawing or making new laws, most likely. There are tales about our Henry, and ballads more than enough, replied the forester, shrugging his shoulders. Will o' the Green knows a good one, I am told. At the mention of the outlaw's name, Robin pricked up his ears. He asked many questions concerning Master Will, and learned that he had been outlawed by Henry himself for the accidental slaying of a younger brother in a quarrel years since. Before that, he had been a dutiful and loyal subject, and there were some who vowed that Master Will was as loyal now as many of Henry's barons. Will shot the king's deer, truly, but only that he might live. The others conspired against their monarch's honor in order that their own might be increased. The cavalcade came into sight of Gamewell Hall, while still at the gossip. The night was falling, and lights burned behind the embrazured windows of the castle, for such it was in truth, being embattled and surrounded properly by a moat and heavy walls. Impressive structure, no? The captain wound his horn to such purpose that the bridge was soon lowered, and the whole party began to trot over it into the wide courtyard before the hall. That it was a very magnificent pace was apparent, despite the shadows. Also, one of my co-conspirators here, Kitten for Cuddles, arguably one of the best mods. One of the nicest ladies that I have ever met too, in person, no less. Fantastic, fantastic. Most of their content is on YouTube. I think they have a. I know I rewrote that. I might have. It's fine. I'm gonna give you a shout out anyway. You might not have any clips here because most of your content is on YouTube. Let me grab that. So Kitten streams mostly gaming. Definitely a variety game streamer, so not any one particular game, but some cozy games, some oh gosh, a little bit of everything, honestly. Let me go to your stream and go to your content. I made you some content. Kitten for Cuddles. There we go. Go over here, grab that. There we go. Haha! I found it. I am the Smirt. So, if you guys are interested in watching some cozy games, Grounded, our D&D sessions, The Wild Seas of Terra, Sunken Land, a little bit of everything. They have quite a few different games that they've played. I think Prestidigitation is their favorite spell. It's still hilarious to me. But yeah, they've done a variety of different things. Micah and the Witch, which is mountain demo. They play an amazing druid in my D&D campaign on Sundays or alternating Sundays. Elvish in appearance and plays Isabel. I don't know that Isabel has a last name upon reflection, but they have an assortment of familiars, which Biscuit is my favorite, a large stoat that can change in size, and our captain of our boat is their fey cat, Mr. Nibbles. So, great, great player. Anyway, I have again gotten into the weeds, so my apologies, everyone. Let's get back to the story. Before the door of the hall, Robin sprang lightly from his horse and ran to help his mother from her saddle with tender care, then moved to give assistance to the clerk. The latter had bundled himself to firm ground, however, and now stood stolidly expectant. Master Montfichet, George of Gamewell, as the country folk called him mostly, had come down to greet his guests, and was waited upon them ere Robin could turn about. The squire was an old man, with white hair curling from under a little round cap. He wore long black robes, loose and rather monkish in their fashion. He seemed as unlike his sister as Robin could well imagine. Besides, being so much more advanced in years, his face was hairless and rather pale, but his eyes shone brightly. There was a very pleasant expression in the lines about his mouth, and his manner was perfect. He embraced Robin with kindliness, and real affection for his sister seemed to underlie his few words of welcome. To the Friar of Copmanhurst, he was so courteous and respectful that Robin began to wonder whether he himself had ever properly regarded the clerk in the past. If so great a man should bow to him, what ought Robin to do? Robin remembered that he had often ventured to rally and tease this good-natured master who had taught him his letters. The squire bade him follow him as soon as their horses and baggage had been duly given over to the servants, and he had heard the forester's complaint against the outlaws. The squire made little comment, but frowned. At the conclusion of the captain's report, they came into the hall lighted by 1,000 fat tapers. "Sister Nell, do you please dismiss us," said the squire, in his courtly way, and after he had signed to some waiting maids to take charge of Mistress Fitzooth, "I will lead Robin to his chamber myself, and show him the arrangement we have made for his stay at Gamewell. Supper will be served us here in less than an hour. Father, your apartment shall be near my own. Come with me also." In the room allotted to him, Robin found new and gay clothes laid out upon a fair white bed, with a little rush mat beside it. A high latticed window looked out upon the court, and there was a bench in the nook, curiously carven and filled with stuffs and naperies, the like of which Robin had never seen before. The walls were hung with tapestries, and very fierce and amazing were the pictures embroidered upon them. The ceiling was low and raftered with polished beams. Behind the door was a sword suspended by a leathern belt. "For you, kinsman," the squire had said, smilingly. Robin lost no time in doffing his green jerkin and hose. And then he washed himself, and eagerly essayed his new habiliments? What a word. I wonder what gay clothes are. Probably just colorful in this context. Joyful, like well made, bright, fun. Habiliments. Clothes or clothing. Clothes is worn in a particular profession, way of life, etc. Let's check the pronunciation here. How close am I? Habiliment. Habiliment. There you go. The more you know. And knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe. Robin lost no time in doffing his green jerkin and hose, and then he washed himself and eagerly essayed his new habiliments. When the sword had been buckled on, our young hero of Locksley felt himself equal to Will o' the Green or any other gallant in Christendom. He strode along the corridors and found his way back to the great hall. there the master of Gamewell and his mother awaited him. Mistress Fitzooth's eyes shone approvingly, and Robin slipped his fingers into hers. I'll build a castle as fine as this, mother mine, one of these days. Robin told her, and he began to ask Master Montfichet questions as to the number of claims at law that he must have won in order to hold so splendid a domain. The squire smilingly told him that the king had given Gamewell to him as a reward for valor in battle many years agone. Then will I fight for the king, cried Robin with flashing eyes, so that I may win my father Broadwold, I think, Broadwold and all the lands of it. And I will teach you, Robin, be sure of that, said old George Montfichet. But your sword must be swung for the right king, hark ye, not for rebellious princes. Will we cry to arms, but for him whom God hath placed over us, Henry the Angevin? Angevin, I'm guessing. Henry the Angevin. Henry the Angevin. Amen, murmured the clerk fervently. Let law and order be respected always. It may mean much to you, friar, said Montfichet. Young John has the priory of York under his hands. He has not fingers upon Sherwood, and we are free of it, cried the clerk. Then he hastily corrected himself. We hermits can have no fear, since we have no wealth. Happy, then, the man with naught to lose, and who has a contented mind. I will be free of Sherwood Forest, father, if that boon shall wait upon my archery. Master Will the robber swore that if I beat him, sir, he had turned his bright face to old Gamewell's, I should go free of the greenwood, and I will win the right. 'Tis scarcely Will's to grant, frowned the squire, yet in a way he has control of the forest. It is a matter which I will look to, since the sheriff seems so fearful of him, he added significantly. And we're between chapters, so friendly reminder, everyone, be sure to take care of yourselves, hydrate, caffeinate, grab a snack, etc., etc. If you're just now joining me, take a moment to get settled in and curl up under a good blanket and enjoy the story. We are currently reading what I have found somewhat fascinating. Like, this is additional backstory to Robin of Locksley than I had ever known about previously. And if you weren't here at the beginning, I am reading the 1917 version of Robin Hood by Paul Creswick. All right. I think that's a good spot to stop for the ramble before we get back into this next chapter. Hydrate myself. We are on to chapter 3. The next day, they journeyed quietly into Nottingham. Taking only a few retainers with them, the clerk chose to stay at the hall, fearing, as he said, that his eyes would be offended with the vanity of the town. When they had come to the meadows wherein the fair was held, Robin was overcome with joy at the sight of the wonderments before him. A child being excited by the fair. Pshaw! That which most pleased him was the tumbling and wrestling of a company of itinerant players, merry fellows, all in a great flutter of tinsel and noise. There were father and 3 sons, and while the old man blew vigorously upon some instrument, the 3 sons amused themselves and the crowd by cutting capers. How does one cut a caper? Hmm. What does the idiom cut capers mean? It's very British. It means to skip or jump playfully. Huh. Or act or behave playfully or frolic. The more you know. Another word for the word holder. To caper is to skip and jump about and play. Now you know. Or now I know. If you guys already knew, then I don't know what to tell you. Again and again did Robin entice Master Montfichet to return to these strollers. It was the wrestling that most moved him, for they put such heart into it as to make the thing seem real. Give them another penny, sir, requested Robin with heightened color. Nay, give them a silver one. Did you ever see the like? The little one has the trick of it, for sure. I do believe that he will throw the elder in the next bout. Will you try a turn with me, young master? Asked the little stroller, overhearing these words. If you can stand twice to me, I'll teach you the trick and more besides. Nay, nay, said the squire hastily. We have no leisure for such play, Robin. Your mother is waiting for us at yonder booth. Let us go to her. Ah, well, thank you for stopping by, Cooks. And I'll leave the VOD. I always leave the VODs up until they expire. So if you want to catch the rest of the story, you can. Have a good night's rest and good night's sleep. And if you need to lurk, you don't hesitate to use the exclamation point lurk as well. And that goes for all of you, lovely listeners, my Librophiles that are here to hear the story. Robin turned away reluctantly. I do think I could stand twice to him. The grass is dry within the ring, sir. Do you think I should hurt my clothes? Such pleading as this moved the capricious old master of Gamewell. Such pleading, yep. Although it was Although it was scarce a proper thing for one of gentle blood to mix with these commoners, yet the squire could not forego his own appetite for sport. He turned about to the strollers. I will give a purse of silver pennies to the one who wins the next bout, said he. Let any and all be welcome to the ring, and the bout shall be one of 3 falls. Challenge anyone in Nottingham. I dare swear some lad will be found who shall show you how to grip and throw. Cooney, welcome in. I haven't seen you in a minute. I don't know how to look at those. I know I'm getting alerts from the
Don't
X
forget to
stream, but
stretch.
I'm not entirely sure how that works with the Restream IO. It's a bit goofy, honestly. I can see it there, but it doesn't actually send me any messages. I don't know. It's a bit silly. I've never used it before. I didn't know that X could do live streaming either until I saw that Sino does it. And he uses the same platform, the restream.io, which, if you're not familiar, you can restream to 2 platforms of the same quality um, at the same time for free. Now, if you want to do like 4 separate, like TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter, then you'd have to pay for the subscription. But I'm like, I'm not willing to pay that right now. So we're good. Here, I will drop that link to the program that I'm using, the Restream right there. So feel free to give that a check that out. That's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the X I can only watch I can only see them after the fact. I can't actually interact with them on Twitter. All of it's done through the website automatically. So through OBS, just like you would stream direct to Twitch, I'm streaming direct to Restream, and they do it on their end. So it's not pulling any additional bandwidth. Just FYI. And you're very welcome. Okay. Okay. The father of the players struck a most pompous attitude and blew 3 piercing blasts. "Come one, come all," cried he. "Here be the 3 great wrestlers from Cumberland, where wrestling is practiced by every lad and man. Here are the wrestlers who have beaten all in their own county. Yeah, not country. In their own county, and who now seek to overcome other champions. Oyez, oyez! There is a prize of 20 silver pennies to be handed to the winner of the next bout. Did you say 20 or 30 pennies, lording? Come one, come all, the lads from Cumberland challenge you." "Now let me wrestle for the pence, sir," pleaded Robin, catching hold of the squire's sleeve. "Why should not I try to win them? Why should not I try to win them? They might become the foundation of that fortune which I would have for my father's sake. 20 pennies would buy him little of Broadwold." "Boy," laughed the squire, "nor should a Montfichet struggle in the mob for vulgar gain." "You are a Montfichet, remember it, on your mother's side. We will see how they fare, these men of Cumberland, against the lads of Nottingham and Sherwood. Here comes one in answer to the challenge." A thin, pale-faced fellow had claimed the purse whilst the squire had been speaking. "'Tis yours if you can take it," answered the old stroller, as he and his lads cleared the ring. A great crowd of folk gathered about, and Montfichet and Robin were in danger of being jostled into the background. "Stand here beside me, lording," commanded the stroller. "Do you keep back there, impudent dogs. This is the noble who gives the purse. There shall be no purse at all, and you harry us so sorely. Stand back, you and you." He pushed back the mop with vigorous thrusts. "Now let the best man win." The 2 lads had stripped to their waists and were eyeing each other warily. The Nottingham youth, despite his slimness, showed clean and muscular against the swarthy, thick-set boy from Cumberland. They suddenly closed in and clutched each other, then swayed uncertainly from side to side. The crowd cheered madly. The competitors for Montfichet's purse were evenly matched in strength. It remained for one of them to throw the other by means of some trick or feint. The stroller tried a simple ruse, and nigh lost his feet in doing it. "You must show us a better attempt than that, Cumberland," called out someone. Robin, quick-eared to recognize a voice, turned his head instantly, and in time to catch a glimpse of Will-o'-the-Green, the robber of Sherwood. Seeing Robin's gaze fixed upon him, Master Will deemed it prudent to discreetly withdraw. He nodded boldly to the lad first, however, then moved slowly away. "Hold fast to him, Nottingham, for your credit's sake," he cried, ere disappearing. Meanwhile, the wrestlers tugged and strained every nerve. Great beads of perspiration stood out upon their brows. Neither made any use of the many common tricks of wrestling. Each perceived in the other no usual foe. Suddenly the Nottingham lad slipped, or seemed to slip, and instantly the other gripped him for a throw. Fatal mistake. 'Twas but a ruse, and so clear a one as to end the first round. The Nottingham lad recovered adroitly, and now that the other had his arm low about the enemy's body, his equipoise? Equipoise. I haven't seen that word either. This book is full of words. I misspelled that. Equipoise. There we go. A noun. An equal distribution of weight, even balance, equilibrium, a counterpoise. Pronunciation? Equipoise. Equipoise. The more you know. Equipoise, an equal distribution of weight, even, balance, equilibrium. Yeah, the more you know. The Nottingham lad recovered adroitly, and now that the other had his arm low about the enemy's body, his equipoise was readily disturbed. His equipoise was readily disturbed. The stroller felt himself swiftly thrust downward, and as they fell together, it was he who went undermost. A Nottingham, clamored the crowd approvingly. Then all prepared themselves for the second round. This, to Robin's surprise, was ended as soon as begun. The Cumberland lad knew of a clever grip, and practiced it upon the other immediately, and the Nottingham hero went down heavily. The third bout was a stubborn match, but fortune decided it at length in favor of the stroller. Montfichet handed the purse to the winner without regret. Spend the money worthily as you have won it, Cumberland, spoke the squire. Now, Robin, let us join your mother. She will be weary waiting for us. And if your stomach sickens for a fight with me, master, here may I be found until Saturday at noon. And so said the little tumbler roguishly. 'Tis a pity that we could not tussle for the purse, eh? But I would have given your ribs a basting. Basting? Another word. Basting? It's kind of so odd. I mean, I would assume basting, but basting. Okay. Sewing with long, loose stitches to hold material in place until the final sewing. Okay, so those are those rough stitches that you pull out. But what does that have to do with his ribs? Weird. The more you know. Now shall I twist his ears for him, squire? Said Robin. Nay, boy, let his ears grow longer, as befitteth. Then you will have freer play with them. Come with me to see the miracle play, and be not so ready to answer these rascallions. I begin to think that we should have gone the round of the shows by ourselves, Master Spitfire. Travelling unattended with you is too dangerous a business. Montfichet smiled despite his chidings. He had already taken a fancy to this high-spirited youth. He walked affectionately with his hand upon Robin's shoulder towards the booth where, with her maids, Mistress Fitzooth was waiting for them. "Are you sorry for Nottingham, Robin?" he asked, as they passed by the pale-faced, rueful wrestler. "Then take him the little purse quietly. Tell him it is for consolation from a friend." Robin gladly performed the task. Then, as he returned to the squire's side, thought to ask instruction on a point which had perplexed him not a little. "Yesterday, sir," he began, "when we were in the greenwood, all men seemed eager to catch the robber chief." "Well, Robin? Today he walks about Nottingham Fair, and no one attempts to tarry him. Why is this, sir? Is the ground sanctuary?" "Have you spied out Will o' the Green, indeed?" began Montfichet eagerly. "That were hard to believe for all he is so audacious. Truly, sir, I saw him when we were at the wrestling. He peered at me above the caps of the people." "Point him out now to me, Robin, if you can," the squire began, humorously doubtful, and his amusement grew upon him as Robin vainly searched with his bright eyes about the throng. "No Will o' the Green is here, child. He would be a fish out of water, indeed, in Nottingham town. Dearly would I love to catch him, though. Yet I did see him, sir, and he knew me. Now here is my mother, who shall tell you how long we talked together yesterday. It is not likely that I would forget his voice." "Well, well, perhaps you are right," said the squire. "At any rate, we'll keep sharp eyes for the rogue. Have you seen the miracle play, Sister Nell?" he added now to Mistress Fitzooth. "I have been waiting here for you," answered she briefly. "Robin, what do you think of it all?" Robin's reply was drowned in the noise of the music made within the tents. It was so dreadful a din that all were fain to move away. "See, mother, here is a wizard. Let us go in here." Robin had spied a dim, mysterious booth, outside of which were triangles and cones and fiery serpents coming forth from a golden pot, with Kabbalist signs and figures about the sides of it. Standing there was a tall, aged man, clad in a long red robe, leaning upon a star-capped wand. "Will you have the stars read to you, lording?" he asked gravely. "Aye, surely," clamored Robin. "Come, mother mine, come, sir, let us ask him questions of Locksley, and hear what my father may be doing." "Do you think that you will hear truth, child? Well, have your way. Will you join us now? The business is a pleasing one, for these knaves have the tricks of their trade. But hark ye, friends, give no real heed to the mummery." The wizard ushered them into his tent. Then he dropped the edge of the canvas over the opening, shrouding them in complete darkness. "Ooh, spooky." The squire began an angry protest, thinking that now was a good chance for any confederate to rob them or cut their pockets. But the wizard, unheeding, struck suddenly upon a small gong. A little blue flame sprung up from the brazier at the end of the tent. In the light, one could now see the furniture and appurtenances. Oh my lord, that's another word. Appurtenances? Okay. Did I not spell it correctly? Appurtenance. One more time. Appurtenance. Appurtenance. Noun. Usually, appurtenance is something associated with accompanying or belonging to another thing. A right or privilege, outbuilding, or other asset belonging to and passing with principal property. Appurtenances, apparatus, equipment. I'm guessing this is the context here. Belonging, possession, relationship, or origin, or an affix that expresses this. Appurtenance. Appurtenance. Interesting. In the strange light, one could now see the furniture and appurtenances of this quaint place. They were curious enough, although few in number, a globe and a small table covered with black cloth. A bench strewn with papers and parchments, and a skeleton of an ape, terribly deformed, were the chief items of the collection. A curtain concealed part of the tent. Behind the brazier were hanging shelves covered with little bottles and phials. The wizard stretched his wand out toward the dancing blue flame, and it forthwith leaped up into a golden glory. "Approach, Robin, son of Fitzooth the Ranger," commanded the wizard. "Place your hand upon the globe and look down upon this table." He pushed away the black cloth, showing that the center of the table was made of flat green glass. "Look steadily and tell me what you see." "I see through it the glass of I see through it the grass of the ground on which we stand," said Robin. "There is naught else. Look again, Robin of Locksley." Robin strained his eyes in the hope of discovering something of mystery, but the flat glass was clear and disappointing. "Let me take your place, Robin," said Mistress Fitzooth. "Hey, Boogie! It's been a minute. I hope you're doing well. Welcome in." It seemed to be summer, the bracken with... Oh, no, I got ahead of myself. But now the green of the glass began to fade, and it seemed to become opaque and misty. Robin dimly saw in it a sudden miniature picture of a glade in the forest of Sherwood. the trees moving under a southwest wind, and the grasses and flowers bowing together and trembling. It seemed to be summer. The bracken was high and green. A man, clad in doublet and hose of Lincoln green, strode forward into the center of the picture. He was a slim fellow, not over tall, with a likable face, bearded and bronzed and a forester too, if one might judge by the longbow which he carried. He wore no badge nor mark of servitude, however, and walked as a free man. His face, vaguely familiar, wore an expectant look. He turned his glances right and left. A low call sounded from the bushes on his left. Robin could hear it as a sound afar off. The man cautiously moved toward the verge of the glade, and as he did so, there came a shower of light laughter from the undergrowth. Pushing aside the bracken came forth two arms. Pushing aside the bracken came forth two arms. A merry face appeared. Then, quick as a flash, up stood a page gaily clad, with black curly hair and strange eyes. The man opened his arms to the lad, and then Robin saw that 'twas no boy at all. It was a maid, joyous with life, playing such a prank as this that she might bring herself to her true love's side. Robin watched them delightedly. In some ways he knew that in this mirrored picture he was concerned to a curious degree, and when a cold cloud passing above the glade took the sun and the light from it, Robin felt an intense anxiety. "Can you see aught now, Robin of the Woods?" murmured the soft voice of the wizard, and Robin would have asked him who was the man if his tongue had been at command. His eyes took all the strength of his brain. They waited furiously for the clouds to pass. And when all had become clear again, the man was alone. His face was sorrowful, ill, and old. He was fitting an arrow to his bow, and his hand trembled as his fingers drew the string. He drew it slowly, almost wearily, yet with a practiced gesture. Robin, watching him, saw the arrow leap forth from the picture. "He is dying and shoots his last arrow? Is it not so?" he uttered, thickly, striving to understand. When he spoke, the vision faded and was gone. Dun dun dun. Okay. We are between we are between chapters. We have cooked through 3 of them already. Kind of just check how everybody's doing. I'll probably read. We're 2 hours in. I'm going to try and read 2 more chapters, at the very least one. And I'm going to snooze as many of the ads as I can so we don't have to bother anybody. Because I'd really like to not have to run another ad. Because everyone had to sit through one already, and that is not a good time. So, we're going to move on to chapter 4, and as a friendly reminder, hydrate, caffeinate, grab a snack, do whatever it is that you need to do to be comfortable and enjoy the story, which thus far has been kind of fascinating.
Drink water. Become moist.
You got it, Higara. I will stay hydrated. Not bad, actually. At the start of this stream, this was a full bottle, and now it's already past half. Just num 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 num. I am thirsty, apparently. Okay, let's start chapter 4, which, if you've been to some of my other streams, a lot of Roman numerals. I've gotten the hang of them, I think, for the most part. I get a little squiffy with the L, which I think is a 50 instead of... I digress. Let's see here. We're on chapter 4. Do-do-do. Do-do-do. Robin started back angrily and faced the squire. He began a confused complaint against the wizard, who had vanished behind the curtain on the left. Master Montfichet shrugged his shoulders indulgently. Give not so earnest a mind to these mummeries, child. 'Twas all a trick. What did you see? A golden fortune and a happy life? I did see a man, sir, dressed all in Lincoln green. He was like unto my father in a way, and yet was not my father. Also, there was a stripling page who turned into a maid. Very beautiful she was, and I would know her again in any guise. Ah, Master Robin, have you eyes for the maids already? Yeah, methinks that he is quite young, I'm guessing. This was so sweet a lady, sir, and in some manner I do think she died, and the man shot an arrow, meaning me to see where it fell, since there would be her grave. That is what I think he meant. But then the picture was gone as quickly as it came. Sister Nell, do you hear these marvels? Take your place and let us see what the crystal can show to you. Most worthy conjurer of dreams, take up your wand again. We all are waiting impatiently to know what is in store for us. These things are true that the glass mirror shows, lording, answered the wizard, reappearing. The crystal cannot lie. He spoke unwittingly in a natural key. Robin turned round upon him very shrewdly. Friend wizard, said the youth half at random, have you ever played at archery in the greenwood which your glass showed us so prettily? Like as not, young master, though I am an old man. Fie on you, friend, cried Robin, exulting in a sudden discovery. Remember that the crystal cannot lie. It tells me now that you and I will meet in rivalry to shoot together for a strange prize, the freedom of Sherwood. The wizard hastily drew near and pretended to peer into the glass. What would you do? He whispered fiercely. I can be generous, Will-o'-the-Green, spoke back Robin. Quite sure now. Keep your secret, for I will not betray you. At this moment there uprose without the booth a most deafening tumult. Forthwith all ran to the opening of the tent to see what might be amiss. But Master Will, who peeped out first, needed no more than one glance. He gave way to the others very readily, and retreated unperceived by the squire and Mistress Fitzooth to the rear of the tent. Cries of "A Nottingham! A Nottingham!" rent the air, and added to the clangor of bells and trumpetings. As the squire and Robin looked forth, they beheld a flying crowd of men and women all running and shouting. Before them fled the stroller and his 3 sons, capless and terrified. The old man's triangle had been torn from him, and he was being jangled now by Nottingham fingers. There is trouble before us. Come, Robin, said Montfichet as he stepped out, with the lad close at his heels. What is the tumult and rioting? Cried out the squire authoritatively, and he blew twice on a silver whistle which hung at his belt. The strollers rushed at once toward the old man and faced their enemies resolutely when they had gained his side. They were out of breath, and their story was a confused one. The little tumbler recovered first. After the squire had left them, he said, the Nottingham lad had returned with with. Is the dog going to be barking? Maybe. Had returned with full a score of riotous apprentices, all armed with cudgels. They had demanded a fresh trial of skill for the squire's purse of pennies, which was denied us in most vile words, lording, cried out one of the crowd, which had come to a halt and was now formed in an angry, sheepish ring around the front of the wizard's tent. Nay, we refuse their request most politely, most noble, said the little stroller, and then they became vexed, and would have snatched your purse from us. So my brother did stow the pennies quickly into his wallet, and giving me the purse. You flung it full in my face, roared the Nottingham wrestler, pushing his way to the front. You little viper, so I snatched at him to give him the whipping he deserved when I could not see my boy injured, Excellence, for but doing his duty as one of Cumberland's sons, so I did push this fellow. It is enough, said George Gamewell sharply, and he turned upon the crowd. Shame on you, citizens, cried he. I blush for my fellows of Nottingham. Is this how you play an English game, to force your rivals to lose to you anyway? Cumberland has won my purse. The test was fairly set, and fairly we were conquered. Surely we can submit with good grace. "'Tis fine for you to talk, old man," answered the lean, sullen apprentice, "but I wrestled with this fellow, and do know that he played unfairly in the second bout. Else had I not gone down at the clutch, as all did see." "Insolent," spoke the squire, losing all patience, "and it was to you that I gave another purse in consolation. Go your ways, ere I cause you to be more soundly whipped than your deserts, which should bring heavy enough punishment, and for sure. Come to me, men, here, here," he raised his voice still louder. "A Montfichet, a Montfichet," he called, and the Gamewell men, who had answered to his first whistling, now lustily threw themselves upon the back of the mob. Instantly all was uproar and confusion, worse than when they first had been startled from the wizard's tent. The Nottingham apprentices struck out savagely with their sticks, hitting friend and foe alike. Silly boys. The burgesses and citizens were not slow to return these blows, and a fierce battle was commenced. The strollers took their part in it with hearty zest, now that they had some chance of beating off their foes. All right, I'll bunk myself. That's wah wah da 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 da. Yeah. Yeah, I deserve that. I know. The strollers took their part in it with hearty zest, now that they had some chance of beating off their foes. Robin and the little tumbler between them tried to force the squire to stand back, and very valiantly did these two comport themselves. The head and chief of the riot, the Nottingham apprentice with clenched fists, threatened Montfichet. Robin and the little stroller sprang upon the wretch and bore him to the ground. The three rolled over and over each other, punching and pummeling when and where they might. Robin at last got fairly upon the back of their enemy and clung desperately to him, whilst the stroller essayed to tie the man's hands with his own garters. The riot increased, for all were fighting now in two great parties, townsfolk against apprentices. The din and shouting were appalling. Robin and the little tumbler between them rolled their captive into the wizard's tent. The squire helped to thrust them all in, and entered swiftly himself. Then he pulled down the flap of canvas, hoping that thus they might not be espied. "Now be silent, on your lives," he began. But the captured apprentice set up an instant shout. "Silence, you knave!" cried Montfichet. "Stifle him, Robin, if need be. Take his cloth." He felt for and found the wizard's black cloth. The squire was quite out of breath. "Where is our wizard friend?" he went on, peering about in semi-darkness. "Most gentle conjurer, we wish your aid." But Master Will had beaten a prudent retreat through the back of the tent. The canvas was ripped open, letting in a streak of light. They left their prisoner upon the ground and cautiously drew near the rift. The noise without showed no abatement. The fighting was nearer to the tent, and the bodies of the combatants bumped ever and anon heavily against the yielding canvas. "They will pull down the place about our heads," muttered the squire. "Hurry, friends." Just then Robin stumbled over the skeleton of the ape, and an idea seized suddenly on his brain, and picking himself up, he clutched the horrid thing tightly and turned back with it. Thrusting open the proper entrance of the tent, Robin suddenly rushed forth with his burden, with a great shout. "A Montfichet! A Montfichet! Gamewell to the rescue!" He held the ape aloft, and thrust with it at the press. The battle melted away like wax under hot sun at the touch of those musty bones. Terror and affright seized upon the mob, and everywhere they fell back. Taking advantage of this, the squire's few men redoubled their efforts and, encouraged by Robin's and the little stroller's cries, fought their way to him. The tumbler had come bounding to Robin's side and made up in defiant noise that which he lacked in strength of arm. The tide was turned. The other strollers and the Gamewell men came victoriously through the press and formed a ring about the entrance to the wizard's tent. Robin, still brandishing his hideous skeleton, wished to pursue the beaten and flying rabble, but the squire counseled prudence. You have done right well, Robin of Locksley, and dearly do I love you for your courage and resource. George Montfichet will never forget this day. Here let us wait until the sheriff's men come to us. I hear them now, come at last, when all the fighting's done. What is your name, lording? asked the little stroller presently. Robin Fitzooth, and mine is Will Stuteley. Shall we be comrades? Will right right willingly, for between us we have won the battle, answered Robin. He had taken a liking to this merry rogue, and gave him his name without fear or doubt. I like you, Will. You are the second Will that I have met and liked within 2 days. Is there a sign in that? So he liked Will o' the Green, eh? A sign that we will be proper friends, replied the stroller. Montfichet called out for Robin to give him an arm. The squire, now that the danger was over, felt the reaction, and he had strange pains about his breast. Friends, said Montfichet faintly to the wrestlers, bear us escort so far as the sheriff's house. It will not be safe for you to stay here now. I would speak with you later, since notice must be taken of this affair. Pray follow us, with mine and my Lord Sheriff's men. He spoke with difficulty, and both Robin and Mistress Fitzooth were much perplexed over him. The party moved slowly across the scattered fair, nor heeded the mutterings and sour looks of the few who, from a distance, eyed them. Nottingham Castle was reached, and admittance was demanded. When the sheriff heard who was without his gates, he came down himself to greet them. He was a small, pompous man, very magnificent in his robes of office, which he was wearing this day in honor of the fair. In the early morning he had declared it open, and on the last day would bring his daughter to deliver the prizes which would be won at the tourney. Master Monsieur, I'm guessing? Monsieur? Master Monsieur, the sheriff of Nottingham. Master Monsieur, the sheriff of Nottingham, was mightily put about when told of the rioting. He protested that the rogues who had conspired to bring about the scandal should all be thrust into the stocks for 2 whole days, and should afterwards be scourged out of the city. He was profuse in his offers of hospitality to his guests, knowing Montfichet to have a powerful influence with the king, and Henry might return to England at any moment. The strollers and the squire's retainers had been told to find refreshment with the sheriff's men-at-arms in the buttery. Buttery? Huh. Robin pleaded, however, with the squire for little Will to be left with them. I like this impudent fellow, he said, and he was very willing to help us, but a little while since. Let him stay with me and be my squire in the coming tourney. Have your will, child, if the boy also wills it, Montfichet answered, feeling too ill to oppose anything very strongly just then. He made an effort to hide his condition from them all, and Robin felt his fingers tighten upon his arm. What is it, dear patron? Robin asked anxiously. Beg me a room of the sheriff, child, quickly. I do think that my heart is touched with some distemper. Robin ran to the sheriff. Sir, said he, my patron is overcome of the heat and commotion. He prays that you will quietly grant him some private chamber wherein he may rest. Surely, surely, said the sheriff. Ay, and I will send him a leech, my own man, and a right skilled fellow. Bid your master use this poor house as he would his own. The sheriff spoke with great affectation. In the meantime, I will see the proper banquet served to us within an hour. But who is this fellow plucking at your sleeve? He should be in the kitchen with the rest. "He is my esquire, Excellency," returned Robin with dignity. Mistress Fitzooth had been carried off by the sheriff's daughter and her maids as soon as they had entered the house, so that Robin alone had the care of Montfichet, with Will Stuteley's. With Stuteley's, I'm going to go with Stute. With Will Stuteley's assistance, they brought the old man safely to the chamber allotted them by the fussy sheriff. Robin was glad when, at length, they were left to their own devices. "'Tis a goblet of good wine that the lording requires to mend him," said the little stroller. "I'll go and get it, Robin Fitzooth." The wine did certainly bring back the colour to the squire's cheeks. Robin chafed his cold hands and warmed them betwixt his own. Slowly the fit passed away, and George Montfichet felt the life returning to him. "'Twas an ugly touch, young Robin. These escapades are not for old Gamewell, lad. His day has come to twilight. Soon 'twill be night for him and time for sleep." The squire's voice was sad. He held Robin's hand affectionately as the latter continued his efforts to bring back warmth to him. "But I will do some proper service for you, child. You shall not find me one to lightly forget. Will you forgive me now? I will return to Gamewell soon as I may, and there rest for a few days." "I'll take you, sir. It will be no disappointment to me. I have seen all that I wish of Nottingham Fair." "You shall return for the tourney, and if your father will give you leave, young Cumberland, you shall become my Robin esquire. No thanks. I am glad to give you such easy happiness. Arm me to the hall, Robin. I am myself again, and surely there is a smell of roasted meats." "You are a worthy leech, Will," presently whispered Robin. "The wine has worked a marvel. Come, follow us, and forget not that I still will wrestle with you. Ay, and show you some pretty tricks." "Unless I have already learned them," retorted young Stuteley, laughing. Then, becoming serious, the little stroller suddenly bent his knee. "I'll follow you across the earth and sea, master," he murmured, touching Robin's hand with his lips. He lightly sprang to his feet again, seeing the Montfichet now impatiently awaited them. Together they made their way to the banquet spread in the Sheriff of Nottingham's wide hall. All right, I think I have time for one more. We'll read chapter 5, and then we'll call it for today. So, quick stretch. Mm-hmm. Woo! Let's go. Well, it's on my brain. Give me a second here. All around me are familiar faces. Worn out faces. There we go. Okay. There we go. So we're on to chapter 5, and as a friendly reminder, between chapters, hydrate, caffeinate, grab a snack, or your favorite snack, and curl up with a good blanket and relax and enjoy the story. Thus far, the history of Robin of Locksley, or Robin Fitzooth, has been more interesting than I anticipated. But, yeah, I can see why this would have been a very popular children's novel. All right, let's get started here. Squire George of Gamewell rested at his ease in the comfort of his own domain during the next day, and though he would have Robin go into Nottingham with his new esquire and Warrenton, Montfichet's own man, young Fitzooth was more than content to stay near to his patron's side. There had been no difficulty in the matter of Master Stuteley's detachment from the other strollers. The old tumbler was shrewd enough to see that his son would considerably better his fortunes by joining them with those of Robin of Locksley. Will was delighted, and wished to commence his duty in Robin's service by instructing his young master at once in the arts of wrestling, single stick, and quarter staff. The squire laughed at their enthusiasm. "Do you leave me, Robin, to the care of your mother? I warrant me I'll come to no harm," he said. "There are matters on which I would talk with her, and we must be at peace." Montfichet dismissed them. He was quite restored by this time, and settled himself to a serious conversation with his sister. There were subjects which he touched upon only to her, being a secret man in some things and very cautious. Having now no son, and being a lonely man, he had written in his letter, and Dame Fitzooth had known from this, that unhappy relations still existed between George of Gamewell and Geoffrey Montfichet, his only son. The two men had been for a long time on unfriendly terms. So, if George is Eleanor's brother, and Joffrey is his son, that would have been Robin's cousin. Okay. Math that out of my brain. Sorry. The two men had been for a long time on unfriendly terms, though the squire latterly had sought honestly to undo that which had been years a-doing. He could not own to himself that the fault was his altogether, but Joffrey, exiled to London, had been brought back to Gamewell at his father's entreaty. For a time things had gone on in a better direction. Then had come Prince John's rebellion. Prince John. Geoffrey Montfichet was found to have been implicated in it, and had been condemned to death. Only by the squire's most strenuous endeavours had this sentence been commuted by the king to life punishment. Geoffrey fled to Scotland, whilst the squire had been exercising himself on his erring son's behalf. It was the last straw, and George Montfichet disinherited his son. The hard-won manor of Gamewell must pass from the line. Squire George had suddenly perceived a chance to prevent that catastrophe. He had taken greatly to the lad Robin Fitzooth, and this boy was of the true Montfichet blood. Why should he not adopt the Montfichet name and become the Montfichet heir? Montfichet heir. This notion had been simmering in the squire's mind. It had been born at the moment when Robin had so cared for him and fought for him in Nottingham Fair. "Here at last," said the squire, "have I found a son indeed." Mistress Fitzooth had to listen to her brother's arguments submissively. The dame saw stormy days for her ahead, for well she guessed that Hugh Fitzooth would never agree to what the other in his impetuous way was proposing. She listened and said yes, said yea and nay, as the occasion offered. Once she mentioned Joffrey's name, and saw Gamewell's face cloud instantly with anger. "He is no son of mine," said Montfichet in a hard voice. "Do not speak of him here, Sister Nell, nor think me an unforgiving man," he hastened to add, "for God knows that I did humble myself to the ground, that I might save his head from the axe of the king's executioner. And he disgraced me by running away to Scotland on the very night that I had gained Henry's pardon for him. Nay, I have no kin with cowards. Joffrey may have some reasonable excuse, brother mine," began the dame, anxious to make peace. Gamewell cut her short. "There can be no excuse for him," he said harshly. His voice softened when he talked of Robin, for he was concerned to gain his point. "Fitzooth will be difficult in the matter, I do fear me," murmured the dame, perplexed and ill at ease. "He is a Saxon, George, and thinks much of his descent and name. He looks to Robin winning fame for it, as in olden days. I do misdoubt me sorely. Well, let the lad be known as Robin Fitzooth Montfichet. 'Tis but tacking on another name to him, said the squire. If he lives here, as I shall devise in my will, right soon will he be known as Gamewell, and that only. That fate has befallen me, and one might believe me now as Saxon as your Hugh Nell. You are none the worse for it, George, answered the dame proudly. Either race is a kingly one. Saxon or Norman, shall Robin become Montfichet? Asked the squire, commencing his arguments again. Fate had in store for young Robin, however, very different plans from those tormenting Fitzooth the Ranger and old Squire George of Gamewell Hall. The two lads strolled arm in arm about the wide court of Gamewell, following Warrenton in dutiful mood. The old henchman was very proud of the place and had all the legends of it at his fingers' ends. He told young Robin of hidden treasure and secret passageways, and waxed eloquent concerning the tapestries and carvings. The hours went pleasantly enough, for after the building had been duly shown them, Warrenton took Robin about the gardens and orchards. There was a pleasure and a lady's bower wherein pleasance? There was a pleasance. What a word. Pleasance? Pleasance. And I don't know where it was spelling the word, but it wasn't in the thing. Pleasance. 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 The voices they have for those. A place laid out as a pleasure garden or promenade. Archaic for pleasure. Oh, that's why my brain read it that way. Okay. The more. There was a pleasance, and a lady's bower, wherein Warrenton affirmed walked a beautiful lady once in every 12 months at Halloween, on the stroke of midnight. The old man then left them. Very shocked was the old retainer to find these merry lads engaged together later at wrestling and the quarterstaff, as if they had been equals in birth. When Stuteley had thrown Robin thrice at touch and hold within sight of the hall, it was indeed upon the soft grass of the pleasance. Warrenton looked to see old Gamewell thundering forth, when the squire came not, and Robin nerved him for yet another tussle. Bear with me, grab that. I want that at the ready. Robin nerved himself for another tussle. The retainer shrugged his shoulders and even took an interest in the matter. Let's see here. Open this picture. So here we have Warrenton standing by the wall watching as the two boys, Robin and Will, are wrestling about. That's quite the move with the hook in the leg to pull him off balance, actually. Robin wrestles with Will Stuteley at Gamewell. Catch him by the middle, he shouted, and now you shall have him, lording, fairly. Now you have him, lording, fairly. Throw him prettily. And sure enough, Stuteley came down. Spoilers! Oh no, not the spoilers. Goodness. It's kind of cool though, looking at all of the shrubs and all of the berries kind of crawling up the wall. Those might be flowers. I don't know what that would be, because as far as I'm aware, English ivy doesn't have flowers. So I don't know what that could be. Something vining. Morning glories, maybe? I'm not sure what would grow that long. Oh, hey, Josh RPG. Haven't seen you in a minute. I hope you're doing well. If memory serves, you're from Taiki Waigi. You're the snow leopard. I remember. I think. unless I'm misremembering. I don't know. My memory isn't what it used to be, or something. I don't know. I think it's more the inattentive ADHD that gets me. You write it down though. It's up there forever. So, where were we? So, beautiful picture again, amazing detail by Wythe. And see Wythe did a really good job on this. Da-da-da. Catch him by the middle, he shouted. Now you have him lording fairly, throw him prettily. And sure enough, Stuteley came down. Does Master Gamewell play at archery here, Warrenton? Robin asked presently, when he and Will were tired of wrestling. Are they not targets that I can see yonder? The old man's eye lit up with pride. Squire's as pretty a marksman as any in Nottingham lording for all his years, cried he, and old Warrenton it was who taught him. Yon target is a fair mark for any shaft from where we stand, yet I dare swear that Gamewell's lord would never miss the bull in 50 shots at it. Have you bow and quiver here? Asked Robin eagerly. Mine I have left in my room. Crossbow, longbow, or what you will, most noble. All that Gamewell has I am to give you. Such were my master's commands. As your esquire will run to the little hut near by, within the trees he will find all that we need. Go, Will. Haste you and bring me a proper bow, cried Robin, with sparkling eyes. Now I'll bend the yew and see if I cannot do better than in Sherwood. Master Stuteley, having journeyed to the hut, peeped in and started back with a cry of affright. The yellow woman, Robin, called he, scampering back to them. She is in there, and did snatch at me. Let us run quickly. Beshrew me, master, but this is an adventure for sure. The yellow one, was it? Then your days are numbered, and we had better be seeking a new esquire, said Warrenton. Are you afraid, Warrenton? Said Robin, moving involuntarily nearer to him. He glanced from one to the other, undecided whether to believe Will or stand and laugh at his fears. I have had the distemper, master, and cannot again be hurt. But here she comes, by the Lord. Keep near to me, lording, and shut your eyes tight. Robin was too dazed to heed the old man's advice. He glared in a fascinated way at the figure emerging from the hut. It is a man, cried Robin at last, and listen, he is calling you, Warrenton. The retainer uttered a little sound of astonishment and ran forward. Sir, sir, he cried, as if in entreaty, to the man approaching, and he made a gesture as though to warn him. The yellow lady, quote unquote, appeared to be in doubt both of Robin and young Stuteley. Who are these, Warrenton? Called out a low, hushed voice. Warrenton answered not, save with his half-warning, half-commanding sign, but as the stranger drew near, apparently come to a decision, the squire's man spoke. It is your cousin, Master Joffrey, and his esquire. They are here from Locksley. Dun, dun, dun! Plot twist! So 'tis my kinsman, Robin, who has tried to startle me. And the stranger, as Robin drew near to him, Greetings, cousin. Here's my hand to you for all that you come to supplant me. Nay, I bear no ill will. Gamewell has no charms in my eyes compared with those of a life of freedom. It is Joffrey, indeed? Asked young Fitzooth, gazing with both eyes wide. He had looked to see his cousin young as himself, and here was a man before him, bearded and bronzed of nigh 30 summers. He was clad in sombre clothes, and wore upon his shoulders a great scarlet cape, and cut extravagantly in the Norman fashion. Suddenly Robin laughed heartily and frankly. Yellow, Will, yellow? Forsooth, are you color-blind, friend? Cousin Joffrey, we had believed you none other than the yellow-clad damsel who walks here at Halloween. Halloweening? Halloweening. I'm going to just say Halloween. Walks here at Halloween. Forgive us the discourtesy, I pray you. Here is my hand and good fellowship in it. I am to relinquish all right to game well ground at the end of a year, and I like such were your father's terms. I do doubt whether I may stay so long as that. He spoke fearlessly. The two cousins embraced each other, and for an instant Joffrey gave play to his better self. Then, next moment, suspicion returned upon him. I am but come to see you, Warrenton. On a small matter, I must have a horse and armor and a lance, that I may ride at Nottingham in the joustings. I shall be disguised, and will wear my visor down, a hungry wolf prowling unrecognized about his lord's domain. His speech was bitter, and his voice harsh. Kinsman, added he to Robin, do you keep still tongue in this business, and tell your squire to be discreet. I am outlawed in England, and have no right in it. That is not so, Joffrey. Surely your father will forgive. It is in the king's hands, cousin. My father has no voice in it, nor would desire to speak again for me, I trow. I have heard all that he hath already done in my behoof. Warrenton, the item was brought to me circuitously. Now I will keep you no longer. This hut has been and will be my shelter until the horse and arms are brought here to me. I'll saddle him myself for you, coz, and choose you as stout a lance as Gamewell can provide. Let me help you in this, and be to you always a true friend. You speak soothly, young Robin, and it may be with sincerity. I'll trust you then. Joffrey drew him on one side. See that the trappings and armors be of good steel, and furbished with red leather. Let the note of them be steel and scarlet, no devices upon the shield. If you should think to bring me one and stay, I would like the sword hilt and the lance to be bound in red. Thus may you know me if be you are at the joust, and be secret, and trust no other man than Warrenton. I'll wait you here at midnight. Have no fear of the yellow ghost, kinsman. You'll be as red as she is yellow, cousin, whispered back Robin with smiling face. I'll do your behest, and attend you in this pleasance tonight at 12 o'clock. At 12 o' the clock. My squire can be trusted, I well believe. Believe in no man until you have tried him, coz, answered Joffrey. He paused. Does Master Montfichet keep well in health, kinsman? He asked. He is well now, but has been indisposed. Yesterday at Nottingham. Aye, I heard of the doings there. No matter how, muttered the other hastily. Tell me that he is restored again, and that you will keep him from harm always as valiantly as you did then. Does your father still guard the forest of Locksley? 'Tis many years since I have seen Master Fitzooth, but thy mother hath always been kindly disposed to me. Farewell. He nodded to Warrenton and slipped back to the little hut, and they heard him push the bolts after him. Robin turned to Stuteley. Speak not of this meeting with anyone save Warrenton. I have promised for you. Right, master. The matter was already past from my mind. Shall we try our skill at archery? Warrenton can find me a bow, and I'll fetch yours from the hall. Here comes a priest. He were good mark for us, had we our arrows here. And with him behold a forester of the king, green-clad and carrying a royal longbow. Do you beg it of him, master mine, whilst I seek yours, I go. Young Stuteley hurried across the green, whilst Robin advanced to meet the clerk of Copmanhurst, and the capital of the king's forest, and the captain of the king's foresters. They were in earnest converse, and clearly had not espied the gay cloak of Geoffrey Montfichet. Warrenton, with significant gesture to Robin, began a lecture on the making and choosing of arrows as he walked beside his master's guest. Are you talking of arrow-making, friend? Asked the forester, overhearing them. Now I will tell you the true shape and make of such shafts as our Will-o'-the-Green uses, he struck in. 1 bare yard are they in length, and are sealed with red silk, and winged with the feathers of an eagle. Peacock, corrected the clerk, interposing. You're wrong, Master Ford, as I will prove. Here is the head of one of Will's bolts, dropped in the greenwood on the day you rescued us from him. I have kept it in my pouch, for 'tis a pretty thing. He laughed all over his jolly face. Here, Robin, keep it, and learn therefrom how not to make arrows, for vanity is a sin to be avoided and put on one side. The plainer the barb, the straighter does it fly, as all true bowmen must admit. He took Robin's hand soon as the lad had fastened the trophy in his belt. I have been bidden to you by Master Gamewell. He would speak with you, Robin, and I do counsel you to give all heed and weight to his words, and be both prudent and obedient in your answering to him. While they moved together toward the hall, whilst Warrenton and the forester argued still on the matter of winging arrows. Ah, I love a good beginning. This has been an excellent story. Also, hi Sino. You're catching me right at the end of my stream today. Let me see. Who can we go visit today, everyone? It is Friday, so I imagine there's lots of shenanigans to be had. Is anybody under the
Neo
same
Squid
category?
just followed.
Neff is on. So that'll be my first priority. I want to just see if there's anybody else that I haven't visited in a minute. Lillustration, Foxy Shrooms, Shroom Witch is doing more of an ASMR, chill vibes. My friend Slightly Stupid Bear is doing some, looks like Deep Rock Galactic. It's been a minute since we visited him. Pandamatsu is doing art, and I figure that would be kind of a nice way to get all of you to go see their work in person. We could go visit them. Porcelain Maid, Manny is still streaming. Oh my god, he's been streaming for like 5 hours. There's no way he's gonna be up for that. Sina, why aren't you streaming? I could jump into your stream. Toss up. I haven't ever rated Pandamatsu before. I think that would be nice. And like another thank you, another degree of thank you. How do I choose? Of everyone there, I haven't actually rated Manny before, and I think that would be really funny, bringing a bunch of people back to back to him. So, yeah, you know what? Let's go raid Manny. He everyone's in for a good laugh. He has been trying to kill the asylum demon for almost 6 hours, and will not accept any backseat gaming advice or anything remotely resembling backseating at all. So just fair warning. You can pray for him if that's something you're into. Let's go raid Manny, and then I'm gonna write that down so that I have notes here. So we'll go raid Manny, and then that way next week we can get Neff. Yeah, we'll go raid Manny right now. So, all right, everyone, hold on to your horses. Raid message. We have a second. So we'll do the raid emote. I'll just make something real quick. Now leaving the library. Started. We can put a little cute emote there. Another raid, maybe. Yep, started. Robin Hood. Started reading Robin Hood. There we go. That's not bad. And we'll do that. Everybody? Okay. So everyone that's a follower, you can grab that message if you would, please. And let's go raid Manny. Alley-oop in 3, 2, 1. Let's go.